Previously on The Amber Mine.
Everything mentioned in this video will only be taken from sources directly related to Islands of Adventure lore. A second video will be made alongside this one that will be more in line with our regular lore videos and include lore from external sources as well as a great deal of headcanon in order to fill those gene gaps.
Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Bob14435, and today I'll be going over the lore of Isla Aventura. However, as mentioned in the previous video, I'll be changing many details. In our previous Aventura video, we restricted information outside of what is directly mentioned in the Islands of Adventure lore, and if you paid close enough attention, you may have realized that the lore of Isla Aventura is closely intertwined with the original Crichton novel. In this video, I will be slightly changing certain details, as well as greatly expanding on the lore of Isla Aventura by taking information from related sources such as the intranet website made for the California ride and 2002's Project. Following the decommissioning of Jurassic Park San Diego, John Hammond set his sights on a far grander venture. He decided to construct a full-scale prehistoric park on a remote tropical island, but had difficulties early on in deciding which island to use. He found dozens of potential locations in Europe, Asia, and North America, but most were far too small to achieve what he had desired. In the end, it came down between two tropical islands in North America, one off the coast of Florida and another in Costa Rica. Many within the Hammond Foundation believed that Isla Aventura in Florida would win Hammond's approval due to its close proximity to other tourist attractions, and had even begun designing attractions off of the island itself. However, due to Nublar's close proximity to Isla Sorna, Hammond ultimately decided on it to house his vision for Jurassic Park. Following the Isla Nublar incident in 1993, Dr. Ian Malcolm spoke out against the actions of InGen in covering up the deaths and tragedy that had transpired. Unfortunately, due to countless bribes and cover-ups, no one believed him. Meanwhile, InGen had begun planning for a new park attraction. Construction was slow in the first few years as Hammond lacked the proper funding to continue the project, and after Hurricane Clarissa hit Isla Sorna in 1995, many at InGen believed Hammond's dream would never come to fruition. After an incident revolving Compsognathus in 1996, Hammond was removed as CEO of InGen and was replaced by his nephew Peter Ludlow, who promised to revive InGen and pull it out of debt by relocating the wild dinosaurs on Isla Sorna to the abandoned California complex in San Diego. In early 1997, InGen sent a harvester team to capture the dinosaurs to be housed in the amphitheater park, but after being sabotaged and stranded by Hammond's research team, they had only managed to escape with the buck Tyrannosaur and his infant. In May of that year, once the Tyrannosaur had reached mainland California, it had escaped captivity and went on a rampage. With the assistance of Dr. Ian Malcolm and animal behaviorist Dr. Sarah Harding, the Tyrannosaurus was subdued and relocated to Isla Sorna. By the end of 1997, International Genetic Technologies had filed for Chapter 11 and was eventually bought out by Masrani Global. The United Nations put a ban on genetic engineering by passing the Gene Guard Act, and the islands of Isla Nublar and Isla Sorna were labeled as restricted territories. Or at least, that is the story we know. This is the nexus point, where we fade from the films to the ride. Now bear with me here because things are going to get messy, and please remember, this is just headcanon. By the end of 1997, International Genetic Technologies had filed for Chapter 11, but rather than being bought out by Masrani Global, they were bought by Universal Studios, who agreed to assist them in the construction of a new attraction on Isla Aventura. Construction began in late 1997, and by the end of the year they had cloned their first new species for the park, Psittacosaurus sinensis. In 1998, after the discovery of the first Brachiosaurus altithorax skull, Universal was prompted to reclassify their Brachiosaurus bronchi to avoid confusion. However, instead of changing the name to Giraffatitan, they decided to go with a flassier classification and dubbed their new species Ultrasaurus altithorax, a debatably more confusing name. As the years went by, and after many trials and tribulations, InGen managed to open Jurassic Park Isla Aventura in 1999. Following the many warnings of Dr. Ian Malcolm and only a couple of years after the San Diego incident, the public was expectedly skeptical about this Jurassic Park 2.0. John Hammond had gone on several interviews stressing the absolute safety of his new Jurassic Park, and upon being questioned of his environmentalist beliefs, he responded by announcing that the dinosaurs kept on Aventura are home in wide-open plains surrounded by natural borders. In some cases, the animals are not even aware that they're in captivity. As for the islands of Isla Nublar and Sorna, they had been turned into natural animal reserves where the dinosaurs live without the interference of humans. The same had also been done with the islands Hammond had leased for sister parks in the Azores and Osaka. While Hammond originally intended a third facility in Beijing, China, the deal hadn't gone through by the 1993 incident on Isla Nublar, and Hammond ended up replacing it by striking a deal with Malaysia for a facility in the Malacca Strait. Even the California complex in San Diego had been adopted into a new research compound led by Dr. Stephen Jackson. Eventually, the fear and paranoia of the public ceased. People slowly began to trust InGen, and the incidents on Isla Nublar and San Diego became nothing but a distant memory, despite the continued pushback from survivors, those who had witnessed the events of dinosaur rampages firsthand. Things were starting to look up for John Hammond and InGen as a whole. At the turn of the new millennia, John Hammond looked upon the future filled with hope, and the future was hopeful. Jurassic Park Isla Aventura opened to the public in 1999 with the release of 15 prehistoric species, and by the end of its story, Jurassic Park was home to 25 distinct species across the Mesozoic era. The famous River Adventure attraction was originally home to 8 species, most of which were brought from the Isla Nublar Park Tour, and as the years went by, it introduced 5 new prehistoric dinosaurs and other reptiles. Before the opening of the park, the first exhibit on the River Adventure was the Brachiosaur Lagoon, but due to the unusual appearance of their Brachiosaurus ultathorax, and because it had buoyancy issues in the water, they ultimately decided to replace it with their new Ultrasaurus. The Mesozoic marsh was originally home to the ceratopsian dinosaurs such as Psittacosaurus and Triceratops, and would eventually include close relatives such as Pachycephalosaurus. Stegosaurus was kept in the Stegosaurus Springs, a geothermal river that was used to power the entire park, and the Hadrosaur Cove originally displayed the Parasaurolophus before welcoming other hadrosaurid dinosaurs such as Hadrosaurus, Maiasaura, and Corythosaurus. The Pteranodon Highlands originally displayed a quiet, pale blue Pteranodon sternbergi, but would eventually be replaced by a much larger, darker species with a toothy beak. The carnivore paddocks were originally home to only a small handful of dinosaurs, including the venomous Dilophosaurus and Compsognathus, as well as Velociraptor and the infamous Tyrannosaurus rex. But as the public began to trust the safety of Isla Aventura, they began to introduce more and more carnivores as the years went by. Such examples of these carnivores include Metriacanthosaurus, Herrerasaurus, Segisaurus, Baryonyx, Ceratosaurus, and Proceratosaurus. The herbivore plains on release was only home to 4 prehistoric species, the Apatosaurus, Ankylosaurus, the Brachiosaurus after being relocated from the River Adventure, and the omnivorous Gallimimus, and as the Jeep Safari Tour became more and more popular, they introduced their largest prehistoric species to date, the Mamenchisaurus Sinocanidorum. Many outdated and older variants for the dinosaurs would be replaced with more improved specimens, cloned by Drs. Wu, Stiles, and Burton in late 1999. They decided that they would greatly enhance the methods used to revive prehistoric species by removing impurities in their genetic code, such as the Velociraptors clone between 1991 and 1992. By 1999, their knowledge on genetic engineering had improved to such a degree that they believed they could predict what an animal would look like before it was ever cloned. Granted, it wasn't perfect, and the animals cloned as a result of these experiments had many unpredictable features, but their technology was advancing. By the start of the new millennia, Project had entered its final stages.
Hey Ember Miners, thanks for watching today's video. Be sure to click the subscribe button on your way out and click the bell icon to be notified of our videos when we upload them.